Mhuri yeZimbabwe zviri kunzi kwaonekwa varume vanokwana kuita vana kumba kwaObert Mpofu kumaTemberland kwavo uku. Right, mamiriro azvakaita mhuri yeZimbabwe hazvina kumira zvakanaka, asi tangouya kuti tinge tichionesa nyaya dziripo dziri kuitika mastreets esocial media. Tisati taenderera mberi, mhuri yeZimbabwe zviri kunzi Obert Mpofu ari panguva yakaomarara izvozvi nenyaya yekunzi kune varume vaonekwa kufamu kwake iko kumba kwake kumaTemberland avo vange vachitaurwa kunzi varume ava vari kutotsvaga musoro weObert Mpofu, vanoda kuti Obert Mpofu aende afe. Asi nyaya iri kuda kunzi iurayirwe Obert Mpofu, according kubva kusosere riri kutaura kunzi Obert Mpofu umwe wevanhu vaifungidzirwa kunzi ari kusapota VB Chiwenga, ende Obert Mpofu akagara asiri kusapota Cape 3 nekuda kwekuti Cape 3 inenge ichivhiringa, inenge ichiuraya nhoroondo yenyika yeZimbabwe, kutangidzisa patsva kunyora nhoroondo yenyika yeZimbabwe. Ende Cape 3 kana makaitarisa iri kuzama kusideline maveterans nevamwe vanhu vakarwira nyika inoi, iri kuzama kuda kutenda Zimbabwe into one party state, iri kuzama kuda kuita Zimbabwe sezvakaita Eswatini, ndo nyaya iripo. Saka according kubva kunyaya toda kuti tikuonesei panapa mhuri yeZimbabwe, toda kuti tikuonesei zvinhu zvakadai so. Obert Mpofu basa raakashanda mhuri yeZimbabwe, akashanda basa rakaomarara kuti Mugabe aende. Basa rakashandwa naObert Mpofu ndofunga vakawanda havazvizivi kuti chii chakaitika. Obert Mpofu during 2017 patime iyeye yakanhingirikinwa, patime yakabviswa vanhingirikini vaMugabe pavakabatwa papa, Obert Mpofu ndiye anga ari home affairs minister. Obert Mpofu akashanda kuneutralizer chihuri. Muri kuona nyaya yakashanda papa, akashanda kuneutralizer chihuri because chihuri anga ari aligned nanhingirikini naMugabe zvisingaite. Saka ava vatimu ravo ava nana Chiwenga vakashanda kuneutralizer chihuri, ndo nyaya yakaitika papa. Saka vashanda kuneutralizer chihuri, ende Obert Mpofu izvozvi Obert Mpofu ndiye ane list remamines eMasondabzo Mnangagwa, remaproperties eMasondabzo Mnangagwa, aya matutara nyaya mamines anenge akaiswa mazita atenchiti ari kushandiswa maproxies aya, ekuti anenge akaiswa mazita evamwe vanhu musingazivi, muchifungidzira kuti vanhu ivavo ndo varidzi vemamine but ari Obert Mpofu ane information yese yakazara yakati kwetsere. Saka Obert Mpofu ithreat kuna Emmasondabzo Mnangagwa panguva ino. So isu tauya kuti tikuonesei kuti Emmasondabzo Mnangagwa haana chakanaka, ende izvozvi kusideline kwese kuri kuitwa vana Obert Mpofu kubhitira kwari kuitwa naEmmasondabzo Mnangagwa, because basa raakashanda kuti vabvise Mugabe akashanda basa hombe pamwe chete nana Chiwenga vese muri kuona vari kutonge mapenza. Kwekupedzisira vanhu ivava vari kuitwa mapenzi nhasa, munogona kuona vanhu vaakudya rifa futi. So mhuri yeZimbabwe, saka isusu tangauya kuti tikuonesei nyaya iripo kuti Obert Mpofu ane list remaproxies, mazita evanhu vari kurhana mamaina eMasondabzo Mnangagwa ese anozviziva zviri mumaoko make, anozviziva nyaya idzodzo. Ndiye munhu akaneutralizer chihuri panguva yeRestore Legacy pipe. Saka mhuri yeZimbabwe zvese zviri kuitwa nezvikananda izvi, mafungiro angu kuwaste time, because Emmasondabzo Mnangagwa anogona kuzongosiwa, anogona kungonzi obatwa osiwa, but vanhu vari surround iye vese vamuri kuona vanogona kupinda shinyazi yakaomarara. Saka mhuri yeZimbabwe ndiwo mamiriro zvakaita zvinhu hazvina kumira zvakanaka, zvinhu hazvina kugadzikana. Isu tauya kuti tikokuonesai kuti aiwa ndozvo zvimwe zvinhu zviri kuita zviri kutora nzvimbo munyika yenyu yeZimbabwe. Tiri kutendai chose nekuteera kwenyu kwamunoita pano pachivhitivhiti patinenge tichikupai nyaya nemalatest updates.
If I'm looking at the original, I need to understand this. If I'm looking at the original, I've got the original, in front of me, right now. The original has got clauses that are numbered, or the amendment points that are numbered from 1 to 21, and then the Act has got the amendments that are numbered from 1 to 29. The other one is 1 to 21, and this one is 1 to 29, right? So without even looking at the particular clauses that have been tied, I want to look at the numbering from 1 to 21 and 1 to 29.
No. The Constitution does not allow you to do that.
So does this speak to something?
No, Uncle Jade. The Constitution does not allow you to do that.
To do what?
To do what you are doing, what you are saying. Because if you start to do that, you become unconstitutional as well.
No, this is no, guys. Mirai, ningedota tadeno ningemsat mapinda. Andiji, the template, the original bill it says kuti clause 1. The clause provides the short title of the bill. The act has got 1 short title of the bill, and then it has got 2 establishes parliamentary method for selecting the president. New section inserted under 2 that speaks to a new section is inserted after section 43 in the speaking to a registration of voters, etc, amendment of section 92, speaking to the election of the president, but it's coming under 3. So I'm just trying on a layman point of view here.
Nai nyamashisha.
Mirai ndibvunze mubvunzo
Mirai
wangu.
ndakubvunzai mubvunzo muri papo. Musati maenda kure.
Because ndinasi kuziva saka munogona kubvunza mubvunzo inesi
Mirai
kuziva.
mukoma. Parliament ine mapowers okuita sei? When it comes to panyaya dzemabills, I'm more interested about your question that you are raising, which is a very, very important. So my question to you is
to change laws, to make laws.
And how when the bill is gazetted, when they are debating the bills or the bill, pavanenge vachibvisa vanenge vakawana simba ripi rokubvisa zvinhu zvinenge zviri mubill nokuwedzera zviri mubill. Thank you very much. Ngatimboona mesa rogoesa.
Kuti simba rubva kuvanhu. Is this what
ndati nini mukoma reganitaura nechikaranga chakajeka. Parliament pamunoipa simba rokunodebata bill. And then Parliament yobvisa mitemo imwe yamenge makaisa mugazetted bill. Kana kuti vowedzera vanenge variwana simba rachona kupi rokuita izvozvo.
Mukoma Gerard, kana muri kundinzwa, I think tikatoenda ikoko takucomplicate process isiri complex. The question you are asking is kuti zvavaita izvezvi zvekuwedzera mamwe maclauses anga asipo zvinobvumirwa here? Yes, zvinobvumirwa. But not with this type of bill. Not with this type of bill. So you can go back to the police amendment bill right now that they haven't passed. You can see that they've done that countless times. They have not gone back to consult the people. There are a lot of bills that you can go to. I've written about them. They've done that. They've not restarted the consultative process. But you cannot go and try and batirira papufiyoyo. Yet the fundamental has already been destroyed. The fundamental is that pane mutemo uripo uri clear. Mutemo uripo uri clear ndeyekuti a change of this magnitude has to go through not one referendum but 2 referendums, which in referendums in the internal voting processes are not require 66% 2, which makes the 4 processes that Zeti was calling the 4 locks. Those have been ignored and totally been pushed aside by what you and Drew were terming the notwithstanding clause. So that is telling you that if you focus, let's say Jamutora is illegal, of which as if it was a normal bill, as illegal. Consultative process. But let's assume that was illegal and they right it's illegal. Let's take it to the Constitutional Court. You would not be able to make that argument because the fundamental has already been broken. The people have not respected the foundational law. The foundational law is that they should not have gotten to this process that they've gotten to. So kuzoda kuvabatirira paka technicality would not work because they already have broken a greater rule.
Right.
And now in the actual reality and not the explanation, the scenario that I created just to make the explanation as simple. In the actual reality, mukatoenda ipapo vanokudza kuti hazvisi illegal, which is what Bashona was touching on. It is actually not illegal. You see, so that's not where the argument should be. The argument should be exactly on the foundation that Zetu was setting, which is what for the longest time I've been trying to tell people, Kuti. I think I put it as the watchman's torment. You are watching things that you know already the outcome. Number one, the first thing that was captured were your courts, and you agreed with my courts are captured, which means with my courts, whichever way you go, interpret the Constitutional Court cannot because those 2 cases and it come drop, it might come to the courts a bit too early. Because the courts are captured, they'll still vote in a way that supports the bill. They did that for bill number 1. ndobva wangobvisa zvinhu zvishoma, ndobva zvazoiswa mubill number 2, ndobva zvangoacceptwa. Court payakatoudza anonzani madhuku kuti dzokera nguva haisati yakwana, what they were doing is to put us back in the scenario of bill 1, which is kuti muite fight retrospectively when it has become law.
Yes.
And the problem with it already being law is kuti the people become conditioned and accustomed to accepting it as law. Those are in this conversation. We are now already scenario planning on the basis of this being something that has already been accepted by the mass because it has been written by pen. So the first thing that you should have accepted is that the courts were captured. And you all articulated it clearly, which means the courts now, before, and in the future, as long as they remain captured, are not going to vote in your favor, but they're going to vote in the favor of the executive because they are no longer an independent arm of government, the third arm of government. They are simply an extension of the executive. Number 2, makavamati legislature has been captured. What you're talking about is the capture of the legislation, which is the second arm of government. That arm is no longer also independent. It is just something that is now standing as an extension of the executive, waiting for a directive from the executive. It has been proven by open bribes that were done before the vote. It has been proven by the entire Chabangu debacle. You saw that. No one has to argue theory around those things. You know, the independence of these two institutions have been eroded. They are now compromised. Now, this is these two capture processes. You cannot then come to the bill and then say to the bill, what is happening with the bill, you need to correct it by going back to those institutions. You can't go back to parliament and ask parliament to say, 29 because it's not going to change a thing. You can't go to the courts and say preside over this thing because the court was already not presided over. I've explained on countless occasions that the constitutional court. Constitutional court is there to interpret the word yandakataura inini Satadini, neyamakataura inini Uncle Gerard, normalized over the 16 million people. Word iroro vanoriziya. Pamukuramba muchitotaura section kuti 328, vanoziya kuti 328 inoti, and vanoziva ndo zvakataura Tadini, achimirirwa naMunzoka. Vanoziva ndo zvaakataura, ndo zvakataura Tadini, achimirirwa naMorgan Tsvangirai. Ndo zvaakanyora muConstitution. But they are deliberately choosing, first, either not to comment on it, two, to pretend that they do not know how to interpret it correctly. So you no longer have any other recourse other than activating the power that ZET is calling God, which I always refer to as the power that creates sovereignty. Ndochega chinhu chinokwanisa kudecide izvezvi kuti whether we continue with the status quo that has been put up neZANU-PF or we revert back to what we are used to. Ndochega chinhu chinokwanisa kudecide. ZET is right when he's saying it's a power game. This is how it's a power game. You understand that I'm a scientist. Tinofarira makonzo. Makonzo tinogona kumaisa in controlled environment. Tracer flag red pamberi pawo. So that flag kana riri kumberi kwenyu, mukapfura flag you get an electric shock. So don't go to the food. You do that 3 times, they follow the instruction. Makonzo anotanga kumhanya, akangosvika ukaisa flag red anomira even chikafu achichiona. But panoita gonzo risina kutrainwa 3 times kana kuti rakwanisa kubreaka system rekuti rikashingirira kugwinywa ndinonodya chikafu. Iroro rinokwanisa kuoverride marules roita take advantage of the complacency dzemamwe makonzo rodya kusvika rafuta. That's the same scenario we are here. Tiri kunzi pane marules akanyorwa pasi neimwe rule yawedzerwa. ZANU-PF is telling you that we have the ability to ignore the rules, and after ignoring the rules we can even add our second red flag. Ndogonzo rashingirira kugwinywa rakumberi rakutoisawo flag yaro yered. Ratokanganwa kuti kuna scientist anofanira kunge achisasa flag iroro. Ndiro raakutoisa flag red rechi2 kuti ricontrol mamwe makonzo. All is to take advantage of makonzo here. So the only thing that you can do in this scenario, you generate a power that is equivalent to what ZANU-PF has done. That's the only thing that you can do. ZANU-PF has told you that the rules can be written down and we can disregard them. The rule that is written down is 328. They do not care about it. Mukuramba muchiti notwithstanding, ndofunga chirungu chinoita kuti sometimes tifunge kuti pane a serious doctrine or a serious technicality. Notwithstanding simply means kuti zvisinei nezvakanyorwa isusu toda kuita izvi. I think I've given a scenario yekuti zvafanira kundoenda kune clause inotaura about child marriage. If ndaona musikana mwana mudiki ane 15 years ndomira pamberi penyu vanhu vese ndoti nekuti inini ndiri of this position and I have this money and I have this power. So notwithstanding what the clause in law says, I want to still be recognized and legally married to this 16 or 15-year-old. And I don't want you guys to call it what it is, statutory rape. I want you to call it a marriage. You see, this is exactly what is happening when you look at the notwithstanding clause. And the only response that ZANU-PF will be able to react to is what happens with that power that creates sovereignty. If I'm being honest with you, I'll tell you, Kuti, ZANU-PF, through all the stages that you've been going, firstly through not not the gazetting of the bill, but firstly through the rumors that it was sharing about the bills before it gazetted the bill, before it brought out the draft. It was testing your mental. It was testing Kuti, what are the people going to do? 2030? Are they going to become accustomed to it? Are they going to react? We did not react. Then they put it out and they don't allow you to have consultations in a proper manner. Again, they are testing to see what we do. Because the consultations happened out in the open. Mukatoona zvinhu 3 zvichisumudzwa, mukatoona Dirk Court achirohwa, mukatoudzwa futi the Human Rights Commission yatorwa masimba the new bill yatorwa masimba ayo kuti angove advisory board yachakwanisa kutaura zvinonyanyooneka. Handiti ikatokuudzai kuti apa mabirirwa haisi board rekunze kweZimbabwe, iboard rekuti munhu anogara pariri akaapointwa naMnangagwa ndobva adisappointwa futi naMnangagwa after ataura chokwadi about the consultative process. Vanga vachikuchekai futi kuti what are you going to do? That is the same thing when they went through the parliament. They were still checking your mental. They said, you know that the parliament doesn't represent you because you know what we did with Chabango. You've seen us smiling all the way with Chabango to the bank. But what are you going to do? The same, now here they've added it to the constitution. And later added to the constitution. They're saying, we know what all those other clauses say. You know it. Your lawyers have told you that we are wrong. But what are you going to do? So it becomes an issue of power. ZANU-PF, behind its disrespect of power, it has real disrespect of law. It has real power. It can actually move money. It can actually move people, real bodies on the ground to cause harm or to cause a certain reaction. It can do that. But it's testing you. Irikuvunza iwewe tadini kuti tadini unogara uchinyora kuti tirikubhaisa. Handiti. Saka uchaitei. Irikuvunza advocate Nelson Chamisa kuti makati mune chapwati toda kuchiona. Irikuvunza tendai biti kuti you and your church guys gather together and say you are going to react to what the parliament has done. Show us the reaction. Hazvisisiri zvemutemo because hapana mutemo to talk about. There's no, if you understand about the captured process, hapana mutemo that you can talk about. There's no writing that you can point to. So ZANU, in this conversation, when I said we're normalizing, we're playing into the ZANU-PF field, is we're now arguing this as if it is law, which is why I liked a deposition, the presentation. It is not law. It's no longer about the structure because the structure is not there. It doesn't hold. It is about reminding each other where true power lies. And ZANU-PF is telling you that we are the true power. And because we are the true power, we also retain the right to self-determine. We retain the right to propagate our own tenures. Never mind the Anonzani mayor where Harare is messing up left and right, but we're going to extend his tenure because we say so. We have the power. Never mind Wakafira Masumeji recently, but we're going to have a cross-board extension of everyone's term because we say so, right? And if you don't agree with us saying so, we're going to activate power. We're going to activate force. That is what it is doing. It is challenging all of us that are in opposition, that have ever called ourselves opposers, that have ever called ourselves leaders, to say, where are you going to lead your people? Are you going to lead them into compliance or are you going to lead them into resistance? Mangwe SMA arguments that we can have, technicalities, those technicalities are not going anywhere. Who's going to deliberate on them? The same courts that you say are captured, who's going to carry them to a board, supposedly a House of Representatives, which you already know is not a House of Representatives. So at this point, you are left with only one course, and that course is you myself and all the other people that say they're opposed to it, showing what power do they have behind the words they write, behind the words they say, behind the interpretations that you're going to do, which will be correct on this space. The same way with the other interpretations that you did in the past, which were correct. You know, in lending, Goma Gerard, I'll tell you what was funny about the cases that were struck off by the Constitutional Court. The other side did not say Mpofu is wrong. Why not ask Hartora Mkomana is right? But akurumidza kuuya agazouya tazviita tapara mhosva asi hatisi kuramboti mhosva. You see, so if you understand where we are, you will move away from some of these conversations, which is again what it was trying to communicate with. It's no longer about the technicalities, how has it been written, how many things have been written, because that's not what is leading. It's not the structure or the original a principle of how societies are formed, how civilizations come together, and how they give up their rights to the first citizen. It's no longer about that. It is about where does power reside. They are challenging for those that have supported General. They're challenging General Putin because they're challenging all of us. I know for the past 2 weeks that General in the opposition even split General something anything. Now they're asking all of us to something. End of story. You know. So yeah, I think I'll pause there, Mkoma Gerard. It's unfortunate. I'm not riled up by what the bill has said. Like I said, it's something that I spoke about for a very long time, wrote about for a very long time, and I called it the watchman's torment, because I'm watching something that I know is coming, and all of you know that this is what was coming. It was designed to get to this point. Every block, every box was ticked. First, not right, until that's considered it's changed. Right. So that's not what's ticking me off. I'm more ticked off with the fact that we are falling for that same trap, where we are now arguing what ZANU has done as if it is legitimate and as if we can defend against it by what, quote unquote, the Constitution would call legitimate means. You can't do that. You'd only have to respond to it by the very power that creates the Constitution, reminding you that the Constitution is a document of conflict. And if this stands, Bill 3 stands, it means that we are the ones that are the losers in the conflict of the past 90 days. I want to end by saying, Muswa 12 June, ZANU PF yaka publisher SI 101. SI 101 yaiti vana Econet, telecom companies ese anofanira kuita 75% local ownership. Ndozvavakataura musi waJune. Nezuro musi wa6 vakarivhesa mutemo iwowo, vakaurivhesa SI 111, which is less than 3 weeks separation yemutemo 2. The reason why vakarivhesa mutemo wakaisa muna June 12 wekuti toda 75% yematelecoms ese is because they met a real power. Vachingobva kuti toda 75 izvoyo, foreign direct investment yakavhara pombi, IMF ikati hakuna izvozvo. In 2 days, in 3 weeks, vanga vachinja mutemo kudzokera paunga uri nekutoedha tuma benefits. So you can read SI 101 ne SI 111 yakabuda nezuro.